In one of my previous videos, I did Could Insomniac Spider-Man survive the events of Arkham Asylum? And I got a lot of requests in the comments to do a continuation of that video in Arkham City, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so, if you haven't seen that video, I'll have it in the cards right here, so you can click on that to watch this before you continue on with this video, as the rules that I explained in that one will be a direct continuation of that. And I'll go ahead and explain that now. The version of Peter that I'll be using is from the end of Insomniac Spider-Man 2. He will not have either the Venom symbiote or the anti-Venom symbiote, and he will have all of his gadgets from the first and second game coming out to try and help him in Arkham City. Now, with all of that out of the way, I want you guys to like this video, comment down below if your thoughts on if Peter could survive Arkham City or not, and if you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel. It would really help me out and make me motivated to upload more content. And so let's go ahead and give us a little bit of a setup here. So basically, Peter is substituting Bruce completely. He will have Miles take the place of Robin and only be interacting with him in the same instance that Robin did, and MJ will basically take over the role as the Alfred or Oracle, and instead of Catwoman, I will have Black Cat in here. But I will not be covering any of the Catwoman missions here, only the Spider-Man ones. As if you guys want, I'll make a separate video going over all the Black Cat if she could survive Arkham City. So let me know in the comments down below. So basically, Peter gets captured in here by speaking out against Hugo Strange Arkham City, and Hugo Strange has the Tiger Guards abduct Peter Parker, bringing him in and telling him that he knows his secret and setting up the whole game. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into our first opponent. Mr. Hammer is the first boss in this video, and he's getting knocked out with no issues. And also slightly humbled, as Spidey is just faster and stronger than Mr. Hammer, who would just be a normal street punk to Spidey, since he regularly fights villains like Rhino, Kraven, and Kingpin. So unfortunately for Mr. Hammer, it's a clean stomp. Spidey wins easily, but will it continue, as now going forward, Peter will be infected with Joker's blood and be forced to find Mr. Freeze, putting him on a head-on collision with Penguin. But before that, he'll have to get through his next opponent. Now we face Penguin's Titan henchman, and once again, this is extremely easy for Peter, who is used to fighting these guys, and defeats him along with all the other thugs with little to no difficulty. And now, Spidey would have to rescue the undercover cops as well, which he would, once again, do very easily, and would end up facing his next opponent on his search for Freeze. With Mr. Sickle, it's going to go down the exact same way as it did for Mr. Hammer, only more quickly, with Spidey knowing what to expect from Mr. Sickle, having dealt with his brother Mr. Hammer. So unfortunately for him, this ends in a quick KO, and this would allow for Spidey to find Freeze. And unlike Batman, Spidey would be sympathetic to Freeze, would help him, promising to find his wife Nora. This would cause for Freeze to give Spidey the information of the override in his suit, allowing for Spidey to find it, and now he's ready to face his next opponent. Penguin is ready for his match with Spidey, and well, unfortunately for him, it's very one-sided, as Spidey completely destroys Penguin physically and emotionally with his quips and jokes, making Penguin miss the Dark Knight. But that's not all that Penguin has up his sleeve, because with him up against a wall without any hope of escape in sight, he's got no other chance but to release Solomon Grundy to take on Spidey. And this is where Peter finds his first actual challenge, as Grundy, while not being as strong as Spidey, is still incredibly strong and a force to take seriously. Since we know that Grundy can survive with his heart being destroyed and Penguin overcharging him with electricity, Spidey will have to destroy the floor generators or completely destroy Grundy to win. And Spidey doesn't have any explosive gel here or anything that can deliver that same kind of impact as it does, besides his fist. But with the amount of electricity being released from there, it's risky for him to destroy them, but he could seal the vents instead. And well, I do believe he could. Since we know that Spidey's webs can hold Electro for a few seconds, it should be enough to temporarily seal the vents on the floor, and even for a few minutes. Since they don't generate the same amount of electricity that Electro does, it's not even close in fact. And this gives Spidey the time to seriously hurt Grundy, but of course Grundy is very persistent and would still use the main source instead of the vents to charge himself, but that actually makes it easier for Spidey, as with his spider arms he can restrain Grundy, and while it would take time, he could eventually destroy the generator and fully knock out and restrain Grundy before then knocking out Penguin and putting him inside his display cases. Spidey has cleared his first real challenge, but can he keep up with his next opponent? Now for this part of the video, we have to slightly change the story a bit. You see, Spidey has never had contact with his next opponent, so he'll just say that he's heard rumors of a man that Freeze needs, and that will cause the assassin to escape. And with Spidey's speed, he could easily catch her and plant a spider tracer on her before taking a fall, and this is when Miles would come in, seemingly to help Peter, but Peter would stop Miles, giving him a sample of his blood, telling him that anyone who has it will die within 24 hours, and Miles will realize his role, taking off, leaving Peter to find and pass the trials of the demon, landing him face to face with Ra's al Ghul. And this fight would actually be harder for Peter than Grundy was, as Spidey has had trouble with skilled fighters in the past, like Taskmaster and Kraven with his hunters. And in terms of technique and skill, Ra's has all of them beat. Along with the hallucinations from the Lazarus Pit, Spidey would have a difficult time, but not an impossible one. But it would take a huge amount of focus and all his gadgets to overcome Ra's, and luckily he has his spider arms to stop the sword, or I do believe that Spidey would get killed, or at the very least, seriously injured. But at the end of the day, Spidey is faster and stronger. Along with his gadgets, he would definitely take the win here, allowing him to get a sample of Ra's blood and return to the old GCPD building where he finds his next opponent. Now that Spidey has made it back to Freeze, he gives him the blood to make his cure, and this is where Freeze betrays Spidey, telling him to find his wife, and then he'll give Spidey the cure, and Spidey just doesn't have that much time, as now he's really feeling the effects of the poisonous blood in his veins, and it's killing him. So now a weakened Spidey has to face off against one of Arkham's biggest threats, Mr. Freeze, and this is probably the hardest fight for Spidey in the entire series, as Freeze can adapt to all of Spidey's tech, and Spidey has never faced an ice villain before, and since this is in a tiny building, Spidey has nowhere to hide at all. Thanks to Freeze's drones and homing attacks, even with his electric webs, it would only work once, and that's the same with all of Spidey's tech. It wouldn't be very effective against Freeze, especially with his Freeze tech. Spidey's webs would practically become useless here. Along with the ice that Freeze would put on the walls and ceilings, Spidey is weakened and outmatched here and comes really close to death. But we have to remember that Spidey only really needs one solid combo on Freeze here until it's lights out, thanks to his superior strength and speed, and we have to remember that he's also taken on much stronger villains with several broken bones before, so I'm sure that Spidey could manage to open up Freeze 2 or 3 times at the very least. Once with his electric webs, another one with webbing him up to a wall or something, and then a silent takedown to finish it off, all of which would only work once, by the way, but it would be enough to get him the win, and he would still be too late, as Harley would have gotten the cure, forcing Spidey to confront the Joker one more time. We are now in the end game of the base game of Arkham City, where Spidey must now fight through all of the Joker's henchmen, including a Titan henchman, Mr. Hammer again, but also against Joker himself. And even though Spidey is weakened, I don't think he has much trouble here, as he's still vastly faster and stronger than anyone in this part of the video. so it's pretty much light work for him until he gets fatigued and the building gets bombed by Hugo Strange, causing the roof to fall onto Spidey, with Joker having him dead to rights until Talia comes to offer Joker immortality, which leads Spidey to being saved by Black Cat before she leaves Arkham City behind, and now Spidey has to stop Protocol 10 and save everyone. Spidey is in for a long night and a long climb, with this one as Spidey must climb the Wonder Tower, taking out the Tiger Guards for this one, and honestly, this is a cakewalk for Spidey, who would easily make it all the way to the top and would take out all the Tiger Guards along the way who aren't anywhere near prepared enough for him, even with him being weakened. And as for Hugo Strange, well, sadly, Raish still ties up loose ends, with him being before Spidey tackles Raish out of the exploding window, where this time Spidey saves Raish's life, webbing him to a wall, therefore keeping him alive. And now, Spidey has to go stop Joker from becoming immortal by taking out the snipers and thugs, entering the building where he now must face a plot twist that he never expected to see. Clayface is next up, as he's all that stands in Spidey's way of curing himself and the people of Gotham, but how does he do against Clayface, as no physical attacks would work against his main body? And so no matter how strong Spidey is, it really won't matter. But he does have a way to defeat Clayface, and that's with his freeze grenades that Freeze would have given Spidey, and his electric webs could at the very least stun and make Clayface solid enough to do some damage. And with the explosives around the room, Spidey could damage Clayface by throwing them at him. But Clayface can hurt Spidey just as much, if not more easily, as he also has the numbers advantages here, and could overwhelm Spidey. So while Spidey could win with the restrictions on him and how he's poisoned, it wouldn't be easy, as it only take one slip up for Spidey to be killed by Clayface here. But I do think he survives here, but just barely beating Clayface. With his torn and shredded costume, Spidey would finally have the antidote and would drink some of it, curing himself, but still he'd have to stop the Joker from getting into the Lazarus pit, and I do think he'd do it the same way Batman did. But this time when Spidey is about to be stabbed by the Joker, he would dodge and then punch Joker, and this is what would actually kill the Joker, because at this point in the game, the Joker was so weak that nothing was going to save him, and I don't think that the antidote would even have worked on Joker at this point in time. But still, at this point, Spidey would remember the Joker's words from the asylum. "You're no better than us, you're a killer too." And that would be what Spidey has to live with. But the video doesn't end here, as Arkham City does have some side bosses as well, so we'll be covering them this time around. So here we go, starting off with the most annoying person in all of Arkham, the Riddler. And let's keep this short and sweet. Spidey is definitely smart enough to solve all of the Riddler challenges and collect all the trophies. And so once he gets to Riddler, it's lights out for Nigma. Moving on, we have Deadshot, and this one is very easy for Spidey, as he regularly dodges bullets and even electricity, so this is no challenge. Bye bye Deadshot. Ironically, the Mad Hatter is the toughest side boss for Spidey, as he has to deal with mind-controlled henchmen and hallucinations of the Mad Hatter. But ultimately, he stomps everyone here with minor difficulty, as it's not on the scale of someone like Scarecrow that he has beaten in the last video. So, it's a clean sweep through the side bosses for Spidey. So in conclusion, Spidey does way better in Arkham City than he did in the Asylum, and he definitely survives this with a few close calls, but Mr. Freeze and Clayface would cause him the most trouble. But what do you think would happen? Comment down below and keep it civil. And I'll catch you all next time with some Telltale Batman related content, hopefully sooner rather than later. And just remember, today is a double upload day, as I'm going to be working really hard on getting this next video out super quick, so it might be late tonight before it's out, but I'm hoping to have it out within 24 hours of this video's release. And just remember, I want you all to have a blessed day, and God is awesome, and you guys are too. Peace.